Hi guys, good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us on this Friday afternoon. And right here, right now, we have Mr. Hugo Tan, the director and principal trainer at Impact Academy Bukit Bintang. And today we'll be talking about how companies are coping with the current situation, such as the pandemic, and how bosses of the company, or even people in the company, can do to go through this pandemic. Hi Hugo, how are you?
Hi, Gwen. Been a pleasure joining you here today.
Thank you so much for joining us. So, so we go straight right into today's topic. Okay. So my first question for you is, how are companies coping with the current situation of the pandemic?
I think people are getting really innovative, in order
Okay.
to survive. I think if we go right back into how all this began, right, during
Mm,
March or April when we first met.
mm,
During that time, one of my client is actually in the jewelry industry.
mm,
So what happens is that if we look at the jewelers in Malaysia, right, without naming the names,
mm,
all of them has gone into live streaming.
mm.
So
Correct.
they are all selling their jewelries. In fact, one of them actually are online 3 times a day, just to appeal to
Mm,
the different demographics throughout the day. So they
mm,
have all these sales people, actually,
mm.
promoting their jewelry online.
Yeah, yeah.
Basically, their whether their necklace or their uh,
Mm.
new products,
Yes.
and I think due to most of them have a reach of say they have a following about like 100 to 200,000 Facebook followers,
Yeah.
and can probably get a tune in of say at least 4,000 to 8,000 viewers at any one time,
Mm,
and people are getting really comfortable with it.
mm.
And at the beginning, no one knows that or believe that this will last so long.
Yeah.
MCO, and then it just became on and off. We have the MCO, then we have the CMCO, RMCO, and now back to CMCO.
Correct,
All
correct.
types of MCO around, and then it just sink into them, right? That maybe this is for here to stay.
Yeah.
This is not a temporary thing. So what happened is that one of them actually started a whole new department dedicated for this.
Mm.
I've only known about this when they informed me about, like, say 3 weeks ago. They call it
Mm.
their new channels marketing.
Okay. So it's like a new trend kind of thing that everyone is adapting to e-commerce, social media, doing live streams like us lah.
Exactly.
Also, do you think part of this pandemic will also bring more worries to the employer and the employee during this whole thing? Because like you said, we thought that it wasn't here to stay, but apparently it is here to stay. And from RMCO, we're still going into CMCO. So do you think, these employers and employees are starting to actually feel the pinch of the pandemic?
Definitely. And I think one of the hardest things about the
Mm,
everyone is in a very uncertain state. And when people are uncertain, they're not being productive.
yeah.
If all the while or your employees are thinking, when is the layoff going to
Mm.
be? Are they going to have this cut pay? Is this business going to be around next year? If all these questions are in their mind, they are obviously not focusing on their job
Yeah,
properly,
correct.
especially at the time when you need them to perform
Mm, correct.
even better than before. You know,
True, true.
so that's the reason why consultant trainers and things, just like people
Mm,
like us, we came in, right.
correct,
In
correct.
fact, one of the most important thing right now is how we work during a crisis is definitely not the same,
You're right.
how we work during good times. There is a whole new set of discipline just for this. I think a lot
Mm-mm.
of times where there is a layoff or pay cut,
Yep.
a lot of my friends, entrepreneur friends, they are
Mm,
making the hard call. Some of them, have been really nice guys with their friends and
yeah.
stuff like that. And to tell them, to come in, what, we have to cut your pay for at least, a 20% and
Mm,
things like that.
mm,
I think there are a few things that employers need to do during these times, which
mm,
is
mm,
they need to over communicate, if anything,
mm, mm.
especially many of them are, partially in office,
Right, right,
right?
right.
So they are at home and they are worried, and they are not giving their best.
Yeah.
So I think one of the best practices is to tell people what to expect.
Yeah.
It is no longer a hidden secret that things might get worse.
Right.
Not going to recover in the next 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, or
Right.
even next 6 months, right? So I think as a manager or as the business owner, I think it's the responsibility to tell your staff. So we are going to expect this is going to happen for the next 6 months to 12 months. We are not looking at anything positive. At the same time, as you know, there is about like a 10-20% pay cut, and some of you are being laid off.
Right.
At the same time, give them some sort of certainty in the form that, after this pay cut or layoff, these are the KPI that we hope we are able to hit.
Right.
This is how much longer we can sustain our businesses. And for some of them, actually, they even make a promise, right? Like, for at least for the next 6 months, I won't lay off any more people, as long as so and so KPI are hit, right? So I think that's one way to provide more certainty for our workforce.
Okay. Also, we want to know, since there are still companies that are working throughout this CMCO, right? Some of them, they decide to work from home. Some, they decide that, okay, maybe you should take shifts. Maybe team A, you work this week. Team B, you work next week. Some work from home. So should employers be more understanding towards their employees who are living in the red zone? Because at the moment, there are lots of red zones in Malaysia, and everyone is thinking like, okay, bosses, typically Malaysian bosses, if you don't come to work, you don't work. You work from home, who knows how many hours you work, right? So should these employers be more understanding towards the employees during this pandemic time?
Definitely. I think a lot of people, there are a few things that we need to understand from here, right? Which is, as someone who is really interested in psychology, that I spent a lot of time, understanding the human behaviors part of it.
Yes.
I think even in good times, people who work for us have a general distrust of authority. They believe that the authority is someone who is distant, who usually lead from an ivory tower.
Yeah.
And during this time, if we do not show the compassion, or the humane side of it, with ourselves, I think what happens is that our workforce cannot perform at their best. There is in fact a study that shows that when in a factory setting, right, especially when there is a layoff or any bad news, and if they feel that their superiors are not really, there are two types of people, right? There's one type of people that will come in like, okay, so this what is going to happen? There's going to pay a pay cut. There's going to be laid off. Okay, that's it. I'm quite busy. I have to go off now. And then there is another type of a leader, that will come in and say, you know what, we are going through very hard times. These are the measures that we are going to take. So as long as we stay true to our message, we're going to do some, we're going to improvise, adapt to the times. And these are the KPI we need to hit. And as long as we do this, we can stay afloat for the next 6 months. And they really put in the time and the heart, to really get this message across, and ask them, what is it that you need to make your work. Some of the companies are offering, for example, new deals, right? Like, for example, they subsidize their Wi-Fi for their employees at home, who work from home and things like that.
Right.
So when you go the extra mile, research shows that their productivity actually increased.
Yeah, correct.
And in some cases, there are times where we have, how do you call this, theft, in-house theft, right?
Yeah.
In fact, for those where the employees do not trust their leaders, their managers, their owners, not just productivity dropped, but even theft went higher.
Okay.
So these are the things we are looking at, right?
Okay, cool. So other than that, we talk about working from home, right? So do you think working from home is a trend to stay or something like a short term until the end of this pandemic? Because I know in foreign countries, especially European countries and Western countries, they already adapt to this working from home culture for a long time. It's just for Asian countries, unless you work for European companies, but
Mhm.
Asian countries, no, not likely working from home. It is a new trend for most Asian companies. So do you think it's here to stay or it's just here until the end of the pandemic?
I think it's going to stay for a
Okay.
long time to come, but not for everyone.
Mm, mm, mm.
Right now, I think we are looking at maybe, if we look at, a lot of, large corporations, they have actually done their survey on
Mhm.
how is the feedback.
Mm,
At the same time, we can see 50 to 60% of the workforce actually wants to work from home.
correct. Correct.
But at the same time, they are facing difficulties in terms of, it's basically the technological gap, right?
Uh-huh.
Because all
Uh-huh.
this while, companies and institutions in Malaysia has been paying lip service
Yeah.
on their digitalization efforts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we are looking at learning institution, they have been saying that they have a very great online learning platform, and then they charge their student fees. And then in companies, they hire consultants and developers to develop all these in-house, uh, web and systems, and network.
Mm,
But all these are being put to test during this pandemic and lockdown. And we
right.
realize most of them are not ready at all.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct. Correct.
all these times, no one pay attention to it because we are still working physically while
Mm,
paying lip service to how digital we are. And right
mm,
now, we know we are not really ready for it. So I
correct.
guess there are a lot of large, huge part of our workforce that still needs to go back to their workplace
Mm-hmm.
because simply because of the nature of their job.
Right.
They still needs to be hand-on and things like that.
Mm, 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 mm.
At the same time, we are looking at possibly maybe a third of the workforce
Mm-hmm.
that will have some form of work from home arrangement even
Yeah.
after the pandemic. And
Okay.
just like what you have mentioned, like Grant, I mean,
Yeah.
we are in Malaysia. We are not talking about the European countries and things like that.
Right.
So I'm
Correct.
looking at around like one third with some sort of work from home,
Yeah.
flexible working arrangements.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that last year, which is
Mm-hmm.
year 2019,
Mm, mm,
way
mm.
before we hear anything about pandemic,
Right.
some of the larger banks in Malaysia, in fact, have experimented with it.
Oh, okay.
So I'm actually with, I think it's Datuk Nora, which
Mm.
is the group human capital
Mm-hmm.
officer for Maybank Group.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So a few thousands of their employees actually have this special arrangement.
Mm-hmm.
Like currently during the pandemic, many people uh, they they don't have their how do you say they don't have a full working week,
Right.
which means that previously they could be working 5 to 6 days a week.
Mm.
Right now, some of them are working 3 days or 4 days. But this is
Mm.
not new. It
Okay.
has been experimented much earlier,
Mm.
and they felt that workers need to be flexible, you know,
Mm.
and they have these 3 to 4 working days flexible contract arrangements with their
Right.
workers.
Right.
So there goes the joke, right? Which is
Mm.
what if instead of just becoming a banker, right now you are a banker and a baker. So for 3 days a week, you are a banker, but for the
Right.
rest of the week, you are now a baker. I think this is the kind of arrangement that we will see moving forward.
Right. Right.
And if we look at TM, many of us are
Mm-hmm.
subscribed to a unified
Right.
sort
Correct.
of service
Correct.
provider.
Correct.
There is this guy who comes here to help us to set up, the modem and
Yeah,
things like
the
that,
the
right?
tech guy. Yep.
Exactly. So what happens is that they have also experimented with their workforce, where
Mm.
instead of relying on all the technical
Tech
team,
guys. Yeah.
right, to do the installation, they also offer to their rest of their workforce,
Yeah.
like, do you want to be trained to do the installation and things like that? So now some of them are actually doing part-time.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I think that's
You were-
more productive as well.
Mhm.
Like you said, I totally agree. Working from home is a bit more productive because some people, I think I've experienced it myself when we had MCO. I think I'm more productive at home because I'm in my comfort zone, but I take my time to finish my task and I get it done. Lah. So sometimes I even get it done. Maybe I work Monday to Friday, but I get it done on Wednesday. So Thursday, Friday, I have the leniency of, oh, okay, I'm done. So I think working from home is actually a good thing. If the employee do not need to go to the office and they can complete their tasks at home, why not? Right? And then you save a lot of time, you save a lot of effort, and also you save a lot of resources from the office. Some people even save rental because if they agree to let their people work from home, they don't even need to have a office anymore. They just save on rental and have them just work from home. And maybe a virtual meetup is good enough. You don't even have to pay for coffee or go to a coffee shop. Don't you agree?
Very true, very true. I mean, if we can save the time on a commute, we can, commute is taking most of the time, of the day.
Agree.
Going to
Totally
work, going to
agree.
clients,
Yes.
come back from work. We are wasting few hours a day, and that is not productive at all.
Correct.
If we look at agents, for example, in our circle, we might have insurance agents, real estate agents.
Yeah.
And they are all doing, for example, online presentations.
Correct.
I mean, why need to go from one old town cafe to another old town cafe?
Correct.
Just do the online presentation. I mean, it's a run of the mill kind of thing.
True.
Right. So
True.
at the comfort of the home. And if people believe that habits can be formed, in 21 days, I believe right now we are far exceeding 21 days.
Already more than
habit
that.
is going to ingrain with us.
Correct.
Next time someone call me over some trivial meeting, we just do it over Zoom,
Correct. I think Zoom has been getting lots of revenue for this year because everyone has been using Zoom, and then also other things like Google Hangouts and all of that. So I think all these platforms are benefiting from this as well. And commute is really horrible. Example, Cheras to Damansara, normal days. Okay, right after when they say RMCO and everyone goes back to office, I spend about an hour and a half in traffic going to office, and then from office back is sometimes 2 hours. So I could have spent that time doing article write-ups and all that. So I totally agree with you that commute really takes up some time, and it's really not productive. So moving on, we all know that 2020 has been full of stress for everyone, lah, right? Do you think companies are able to go back to basics like life before the pandemic when everything was so, I would say, colorful, stress-free? Do you think it's possible?
I think the more shrewd company has been preparing for whatever that we are experiencing right now, years ahead. And the only thing that COVID did is it kind of accelerate, what is inevitable. And a lot of people are in their comfort zone. A lot of companies are in their comfort zone as well. Even right now, after half a year, with some sort of movement control, they are still not breaking out of their shell,
Right.
So I think this just shows how resistant to change, some companies or some workers or even entrepreneurs are. But I think they are facing a really harsh reality to come. There is this saying, right, I think it's by Intel former chief executive. He says that during bad times, bad companies will die off. Good companies will survive, and great companies will be built.
Correct.
Exactly what is happening. If we look at, for example, Zook. A lot of people know about Zook, right?
Yes.
Obviously,
correct.
over the past 6 months, pubs, cinemas, any form of entertainment outlet, or even gyms
Yeah.
are not doing well.
Correct.
Just like I have a friend, personal trainer, right? I think his gym has just opened for say about a month plus, and now
Yeah,
there
and
is a
then
CMCO
CMCO.
again. Yeah, and that guy don't even like to do Zoom. You're forced to.
Yeah,
Just look at Zook, right? I mean, obviously, clubbing is not going to work.
not gonna
And
happen. Yeah.
yeah, of course, I've seen some proposal for socially
Because it's
distanced clubbing,
sitting
but
on a chair one, right? Okay.
yeah,
But no, like it's different.
yeah,
No
I mean,
feel, no feel.
right, the feel is not there. But I've seen also socially distanced concerts
Yeah.
being done. People are in their boxes.
Yeah.
But what Zook did for example, they converted the space into, cinemas,
Right.
socially distanced cinemas.
Right.
They even have a spin classes, as in they go there to cycle and stuff like that.
Right.
And they even come out with a pop-up restaurant.
Correct.
I mean, people have to adapt. Even if we look at cinemas, right? Obviously, cinemas are going to be closed, and there are no really good movies coming out, anytime soon. But I can see that their F&B counter are still open, despite their cinemas are closed.
Correct.
So they are trying, and gyms, they are offering like free 1 month, trial. There are some people who complain, I just sign up and then I see the ad, free 1 month.
Yeah.
They are converting spaces.
Yeah.
And even co-working space. Co-working space, they are trying to become like virtual offices. And of course, we have heard news like certain, taxi companies, they are now becoming delivery companies.
Correct.
So it's all about how you transition, how you pivot.
Correct.
Nothing is going to be the same. So yeah,
Correct.
not to expect that.
I think when push comes to shove, you just have to do what you need to do to survive lah. Anyway, the world is cruel, but you have to do what you have to do to earn a living. And of course, I agree that, Zoom Group is really doing something. At least they are helping their business, not really business, their employees to still have a job and, still keep them with them on board, which is something that, I think every company should not be afraid of is change, or even, explore more. Don't just keep yourself in your old ways, maybe some new ways as well, right?
Change is the only constant, just like what you have mentioned, Greg. And the empowerment of staff and empower them to even go cross-discipline is something that we will continuously see. I think we have really hit into a very interesting topic, which is what is the future of place going to be like?
Correct.
Right.
So that's it. Like, we would want to know what is the possible future will be like for local companies, and how they can grow from this.
Indeed. And I think, the talents that we have in our company. There is this I have this friend who is in Shenzhen, right, China. And if we look at some of the more, not to say more innovative economies, but definitely, their people are really trying, and they are really adapting like super quick, right?
Correct.
There are companies that brick and mortar companies, traditional companies. During the pandemic, they actually empower their workforce, to be live streamers, to become active salespeople and brand ambassadors, online. So there is this company where each of their employees, are being given training on how to do live streaming.
Oh, okay.
How to engage clients on their own.
Okay, that's very interesting.
They allow them to set up virtual shops. And this is not something that is like one company doing it. In fact, if we are looking at China, a lot of companies are hopping onto the bandwagon because they see like, if this company can do it, and they have tested it first.
Why can't we do it? If they can, why can't we? Right. Okay.
Exactly. And talk about the jewelry business again. I think
Right.
this is not jewelry. I think this is a cosmetic brand in China,
Mm-hmm.
where they close off 40% of their stores,
Okay.
to really go full on into live streaming.
Uh-huh.
I mean, closing of stores is for sure,
Yeah.
H&M, are doing it, Adidas
Yeah.
are doing it. The
Correct.
question next is, after we close those, where do we go next?
Mm.
So we need
Online
to
or
strengthen the live streaming, the
right.
online stores, whether it's a WeChat stores or
Mm.
you have other platforms to do it.
Mm.
And at the same time, we still need some physical stores as some sort of showrooms, for
Correct. Correct.
example.
Correct.
Yeah. So we are talking about how business models would change. We are talking
Mm-mm.
about how work arrangement would change.
Mm-mm.
So the way we live and work is going to be really different.
Mm.
However slow your country, or community would be. So this is inevitable.
Correct. Correct. And I think from this, like earlier we've mentioned, everything has become very
Mm-hmm,
online. Everything has
mm-hmm,
become very online. Even those companies that don't have their own online websites and all that, I think they pushed until the maximum so that everyone can see their website up during MCO. And I'm sure everyone has done lots of boosting, lots
mm-hmm,
of ads for people to see that they are online and stuff like that. And I do agree that we need physical stores because sometimes, I think the older generation, they don't really
mm-hmm,
trust what's online. They, even though people say, hey, this product super good lah, I
mm-hmm,
also using it lah, this and that, but I
mm-hmm.
think they still want to go to the physical store to see this product
Product.
before they buy. Okay, so sorry about that. So
Mm-hmm,
I think if the older generation can maybe adapt a little more,
mm-hmm,
surf the internet a little bit more, learn more about e-commerce, then maybe certain companies will even go 100% online.
mm-hmm,
I think I know a shop that went 100% online. They closed
mm-hmm.
down most of their physical stores. It's a clothing brand.
Mm,
It's a clothing brand. They totally shut their physical stores and they went online. But it's not the international brands. It's a local brand that everyone
mm-hmm.
knows of. One.
I
So
see.
I think that's a really brave move. And
Indeed.
if people really support your brand, then I think they will still go online, still buy your product. And it's just how you advertise your product, I would feel, right?
Very true. Very true. And
Mm,
just to pick off what you have mentioned about
mm,
the elderly, right?
yeah.
I remember many years ago,
Mm,
uh, I think it's probably like 10 years ago. My dad probably said something like, um, why do you waste time buying smartphones?
mm.
But I think nowadays he probably has 2 or 3 smartphones. Even um, my mom, my aunt, they are
uh,
on Instagram, and to
uh,
say that Instagram is the domain of the young,
yeah, correct, correct.
perhaps in the coming future, it's not going to be that exclusive anymore. People are jumping into different platforms, into
Mm, mm,
TikTok,
mm, mm.
Douyin, and things like that. And
Yeah.
if we talk about European countries, they
Mm,
definitely have a aging population.
correct.
And during this pandemic, they are forced, to learn about Zoom, about live conferencing, about how to order their groceries online.
Correct, correct.
And it's a long time coming. And if we look at the young populations, especially if we these few months have been focusing a lot on a Southeast Asian audience.
Mm,
I think it has about like a billion population.
mm,
If we look at young people, right? Let's
mm.
say let's put Malaysia for example.
Okay.
If I get the stats right, about the median age, for a Malaysian is somewhere in either his 30 or in his 30s.
Mm,
So
mm.
which means that we are filled with young people, with youths,
Correct,
you know,
correct.
and because the developed countries, mostly they have declining, birth rate and stuff like that.
Right,
So if we look at the way the young people are in the world right now, I would
right.
say it's going to be in Asia.
Mm,
And this is going to be a trend that marketers, that business owner cannot ignore, you know.
Right.
And young people are digitally savvy.
Correct.
And their consumptions, whether it's online shopping, gaming, and we are probably one of the top social media users in the world. I'm talking about Southeast Asia, you know, Malaysia, Philippines. You know, they are aggressive and they are comfortable.
Right,
you know, there's no question about, are they comfortable with digital banking? We are comfortable. Have we bought a pair of shoes online? We have.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
so there is no stigma around it.
Right.
A lot of times people have this distrust or stigma because it's not proven. You know, it's not proven. But this is a 10-year-old story. You know. Right now, we are looking at people are jumping into starting digital banks. You know, Asia, you know, they have this collaboration, I think, with My Lorry. They try to start something called Our Farm, you know, to bring fresh produce, you know, straight to your doorstep. I mean, you know, there is no tell, you know, what is your current industry. Because if your current industry or your current business model does not work, the only thing to do is to change, you know, according to the trends, you know, the trends in people, you know, putting higher stake into environmentally friendly stuff. We're also looking at the aging population, or perhaps the growing youth population. Perhaps even in the new reality, right? If people are all working from home, or even let's say 1/3 of workforce continue to work from home, there's continued increase in online spending. And emerging economies, for example, again, right? I love Asia, love Southeast Asia. Emerging economies like, say, Vietnam, you know, or even China, or even Thailand, right? All this while we see them as some sort of producers, you know, they're the manufacturers, you know, because they are cheap, kind of thing. I think people don't realize they are moving into a largely growing consumer society. The market is big. There is about, I think, at least we are talking about 60 to 80% growth in consumption in these countries. So what would your business do? How would you do it differently? You know?
Correct. Totally agree. Okay, so back to our title topic for today. Why do you think that corporate training is important for both employees and employers? Because we've talked about what companies are going to do, how are they going to survive, what are the trends, what are we going to, you know? So it's been a while since I heard about corporate training. To be honest, I think most companies don't think that it is important, but I think it is important. So why do you think it is important for both employees and employers?
I think it's no question, you know, how important is continuous learning, reskilling, and upskilling, especially during these times. It's very hard to see why someone cannot see, you know, the importance of training. If we ask someone, you know, like right now, if you're watching this, you could be an entrepreneur, you could be an employee, you could be a student. If you are a student, you do realize that whatever that you are studying in school could be obsolete by the time you graduate. If you are an employee, you would have realized that the employees with digital savvy skills, you know, with the latest, you know, in demand skills, they are likely to be paid more or even put to the forefront during this pandemic. You know, just look, okay, especially if you're working in the marketing departments, because I work with a lot of salespeople and marketers, right? Just look at it like, if you are someone like Graham who can come online and do live stream, do you think you have more opportunities right now than before? And becoming a talent, you know, everyone is a talent, is a brand on its own. You know, the best jobs are by referral, not exactly the one that you go and apply on job straight, you know. So are you visible in the marketplace right now? If right now I can see that Gwen is hosting really well, she's confident, she's able to bring herself well, you know, she can communicate. People are going to look out for these talents. So are you equipping yourself with the latest skill sets? Even if your company is not enrolling you in training, have you been enrolling yourself in courses? Even I myself, I'm in training, but at the same time, I'm still getting training. In fact, just last night, I'm still working on my assignment for digital marketing, learning
Okay.
about all those different stuff.
Right.
And right now in our academy, we are offering, different courses, for people to learn how to do their accounting, how to do graphic design. There are only two roads ahead, right? You
Right.
become a more valuable talent for your company, or you get yourself prepared and equip yourself with a high income skill in the event that you need to transition to a gig economy.
Right.
Even pilots right now, where their planes are being grounded. I have a friend who is selling, I think he's cooking at home, and he has all these new packages
Right.
delivered to you. I'm not sure how you do it, probably Food Panda or something. Yeah, I mean, even pilots have to cook, even bankers have to bake.
Correct.
Everyone have a side gig nowadays.
Yeah,
So
correct.
are you preparing yourself? And for companies, I think investing in your people is definitely the best investment over time.
Right. Correct.
If your workforce is not equipped, they can't perform. And just think about this. If you don't empower, if you don't invest in your team, how will they get better? Yeah, some of them need the push, right? Some of them is not going to, spend their own money and invest in themselves. So you got to tell them, why is it so important to invest in them?
Right.
Do they know the latest marketing strategies? Do they know how to communicate in a crisis? Crisis communication is becoming more and more important. And I think for trainers, it's very important to promote courses that are relevant to the times. People want to know how to change their business models, how to communicate in a crisis, how to lead a team in a crisis. Like I say, right, in good times, everything is easy. In bad times, everything is tougher. And people want to get direction on how to navigate through these times.
Okay, so we want to know, right? How do you think it will be different next year? And what steps can companies take in a crisis? Maybe you can share some tips as
Definitely.
a trainer. Maybe what you have seen.
I think if we are talking about building talents, at the same time we're also talking about attracting talents. I'll be an attractive company for talents, because obviously talents loyalty is not quite the thing nowadays. Especially if let's say we are talking about someone in the lower to mid income employees. They are probably thinking, recently I've been earning more from just driving Grab, or doing my side gig compared to my day job. So are we giving opportunities for our employees, to try out new areas? Do we have a flexible, attractive remuneration package? And when we talk about next year, we're also talking about a lot of our employees, are also under a lot of stress. So this is where training can come in, right? Last night, I was in a session with Osman Rani, the guy from Asia X, iFlix. Currently, he's working on a startup called Naluri. So Naluri is actually about digital therapeutics. Basically, what he have, I don't think I can mention his clients, but he has been working with some of the corporate companies over here in Malaysia, and they help them build a website, where they can access, and their employees can have 24/7 access to a psychologist, a nutritionist, and also a life coach. You know, so if they have any questions and if they are under any stress, they need someone to speak to. You know, they have a channel that is not HR. That is very important. You know, not everyone is comfortable talking to HR. You know, especially words go around. You know, and there could be a stigma. They are worried, will that affect, you know, my evaluation or things like that. You know? So they have this third party, you know, privacy where they can communicate to. I think he also helped create a 6 weeks resilience course for employees in these large corporations. So I think going forward, we need to take care of our team, you know, in terms of how is their mental condition, how is their skill preparedness, you know, and not just companies are in a, you know, uncertain state, but also the employees. Maybe they have worries about how their financial planning going to be, you know, how do you work from home, you know, what are the tech needed, what are the you know, arrangements needed, how about the cyber security. I think that's something companies would need to invest in, because a lot of people are communicating through their laptops and mobile phones, you know, and a lot of times it's really unprotected. You know, even their company laptops, you know, some of them use that, but they don't have a secure connection, and they have been sharing a lot of things using you know, private devices.
Correct.
So I think new opportunities are going to come out, and of course, you know, people has been conditioned to really think about their health and wellness during this time.
Correct.
So we are looking at a couple of industries that are going to see a boom, and a lot of people transitioning into it. We're going to see the need for more training, you know, upskilling, reskilling. You know, so these are some of the trends we are looking into. We are going to look at unique, you know, workplace arrangements. So if we are going to talk about what is going to happen next year, these are the things that is going to happen next year. You know, this is going to be the thing that is going to be intensified over the next, say, 3 to 5 years.
Okay. So, how long have you been a corporate trainer?
I don't straight away become a trainer, because that's not, you see, a lot of people have this perception. I think I met a mutual friend of ours about, like, say 2 months ago or something, you know, when he's in KL, you know. And we talk about, you know, becoming a guru, you know, kind of thing. You know, I know a lot of people are jumping into the bandwagon right now, right? You know, gurus and sifu are, you know, out of nowhere.
Throughout the whole MCO, we saw lots of videos of all these gurus lah.
Exactly. I think the more the merrier, but at the same time, you know, people doesn't just suddenly become a guru, you know. You know, for it to work, you need to have some sort of a community or following or proven credentials, you know. Obviously we need to start in 1 or 2, you know, skill set or value offering before diversifying to others. You know, I see some people, they are trying to become the expert in everything.
Correct.
But that's the thing, right? We need to be clear of our value propositions.
Right.
So I started off in the I'm actually a graduate in accounting and finance, you know, but I don't quite end up becoming an accountant, you know, or financial analyst of any sorts. I've always been passionate about people, about marketing, you know, and about event management. So throughout at the early stage, I've founded, you know, various marketing companies, even a telemarketing call center at one time, and then a lot of event management companies in one form or another.
Right.
And from there, I think it gives me a huge network that I can leverage on. You know, and when people see you perform well, and I will always place a huge, how do you say, huge chip, you know, on being visible. And this is before everything called personal branding is quite a thing.
Okay.
I think building a personal brand, even if you are employees going forward, is going to be like really, really important. And it has given me so much opportunities. Previously, I was a very quiet person.
Okay. Very not you.
Yeah, it's a very quiet person.
Yeah.
And until the time when I discover, public speaking, discover, NLP, and I really go deep into it.
Yeah.
And, the opportunities, being a public speaker, being a trainer, it's not so much about just the monetary part of it, but it's simply the access to the number of people. And access is access and visibility. I think these are the two keywords, that will help anyone, listening to this right now. So from day people started to, look for me for communications, training, and of course, right now I'm heavily into NLP, science of modeling success, how you can replicate results. And right now, we can even zone in into like how do we use NLP and other, psychology best practices in marketing, in communication. How do you build rapport? How do we deliver a spellbinding presentation? How do we convince a client?
Okay.
Human skills. Human skills are becoming even more valuable.
Right.
We have soft skills, we have hard skills.
Right.
Since you are bringing this up, right? Hard skills could be ever changing. At one time, graphic design could be the thing. Then if you are a computer science graduate, could be a thing. Now maybe if you are a coder, you can do an app or web, it could be a thing. But 5-6 years later, it could be another thing.
Right.
We need to continue upskill ourselves, reskill ourselves in terms of the hard skill part of it. But what is evergreen is the soft skill part of it. The human skills, the people skills. Doesn't matter how digital the world is. There is always a need for good communicators.
Correct.
There's always a need for influencers. Back then, the word influencer doesn't even exist. And right now, there are people that call themselves social media influencers.
Right, 100% full-time job. Correct,
exactly.
100% full-time job. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that's the reason why, my training job initially from becoming a part-timer who only take on certain gigs or upon request. However, through the word of mouth and through the following that I built continuously, banking on accessibility, visibility, and proven results again and again, I think a lot of people, they are sick and tired of regular advisors. That doesn't work. We have been hearing a lot of advisors like, this is like feel good advisors, trainers tell you to just be yourself,
Right.
Just imagine your audience are pumpkins, or just be more kind, in your communication. I mean, all this feels very good, but they are obviously not working.
Okay.
So what I bring to the table is the more counterintuitive, practices that they can try with, and when they see results, the recommendations just keep coming.
Wonderful. So, we want to know, from your experience in all the fields that you have walked through, we want to know what is the trend that Malaysian companies should stop doing to their employees?
I see. I think that is a great and interesting question. Obviously, as you and me know, there are a lot of things to stop doing. A lot of things to stop doing.
A lot of things to say.
A lot of things to say as well.
Yeah.
I think companies need to be in line with how the world are changing.
Yes.
Yeah. The way people are learning, the way businesses are running, they are all changing. And recently we have seen a lot of companies, they say they are looking more into what skills a person can bring to the table instead of what are their degrees. I think this is something that companies should really consider about. Do not pigeonhole someone because of what is their qualification. That's one thing, right? Just because I'm an accounting graduate, you don't have to keep making me the numbers guy.
Correct.
And secondly is to look at people that are continuously learning, upgrading themselves. I think we are no longer so concerned about what is your paper qualification, for example, whether you're a degree holder or master's holder, whether your pay should be aligned with whether you have an MBA or not. I think that's a very outdated advice or practice. We should be more concerned about what is the results that someone bring to the table, instead of what are their paper qualifications. That would be number one. Number two would be flexible work arrangement and to remove the stigma around it. A lot of people feel that if my employee is not in office, I cannot see them, I cannot control them. The need for control is some sort of disease. Sometimes, besides several, say, basics procedures that you need to follow, other than that, what really matters are the results.
Right.
It doesn't matter how you do it, what time you do it, as long as you follow our values, as long as you do it professionally, as long as the job get done, that should be the most important. I think that's the reason why companies need to invest in training, because everything rise and fall on leadership. And while you are sending your employees and your teammates for training, have you been having training yourself?
Correct. Self-enhancement.
Yeah. Our leaders need to be kept abreast about what is possible.
Right.
And also to upgrade themselves as well.
Correct.
And the next thing is workforces should become more humane to attract talents. If before this we are talking about maternity leave, we are talking about how many days and things like that. Right now we're also talking about paternal leave. For the fathers to be around their newborn at least for 1 month or 2 months.
Correct.
We're also talking about mental health leave. If someone is under huge duress or stress, can they take a day off with the reason being I need a mental health zone out just for 1 day. And all these are going to be increasingly important to a lot of people. These are the criteria people are looking at when they choose a job. There is a recent research that says that I think about 60 to 70% of people would opt for a flexible or work from home, some sort of perks in comparison with just a higher pay.
Right.
Yeah. Correct. So it's not just all about monetary benefits, nowadays. It's about, does the company have training? Does the company have flexibility? Do they give us autonomy? Do they give us visibility? Do they build out, my portfolio? What kind of opportunities or something game changing, that the new generations would like to be part of? I'm in all these Facebook groups. I'm sure you are in as well. There are a lot of employees complaining about the new generation.
Yeah.
What is their attitude like?
How they cannot communicate with these people.
Exactly. That's where training comes in, right? How do you communicate with the millennials, with the Generation Z? it's not really a mystery. They just have a different set of values. It's as simple as that, right? Because what you feel is right is based upon your set of values, but values change. People don't value the same things anymore.
Correct.
And therefore they have a different set of expectations, and therefore they have a different way of doing things.
Correct.
Yeah, so this is what we're going to look at going forward.
Okay, great. So before we end today's whole session, it was really fruitful. So before we end today's session, is there anything else you'd like to add for our audience here today?
I think the takeaway message would be, the quote, by the former Intel CEO again. Of course, the future is already here. It has been accelerated. Bad companies die off, good companies survive, and great companies are being built right at this moment. If we look at the Fortune 500 companies, about 70 to 80% of them are built during an economic downturn or recession. So my question for you, if you're watching this, is, will your company be the company that not just survive this lockdown and pandemic, but to emerge from it as a new player in the marketplace? Are you auditing your business model? Are you investing in training? Training is not just for your employees. Training is for you too.
Correct.
How many hours of training have you clocked in last year? How many of them has been applied? Are you just attending training for the sake of attending training? Or are you applying something? For your HR department, or right now we love to call it like people development, human capital. Here's the thing, right? For a very long time in companies, they have been playing with buzzwords and fancy slogans. No one really practice or care about. If I go into your company and ask your employees, do you know what is the values of your company? I would bet that more than half of them do not know what they are. And most of them do not care what the slogan or tagline is anyway. Do you create something just for the sake of creating it? Or is that really a guiding principle? I've seen companies that this one would be a property agency, right? So they have values like creativity, things like leadership or open communication. Then I ask them, right? So this open communication thing, how is it being applied? There's no answer. That's the thing we need to ask, right? You write all this in very nice word on the board. What guide good companies to become great companies, or even good individuals to become even greater, is what kind of values do they hold in place? These values are not buzzword. When we talk about open communication, do you really have your HR, to really brief during the team buildings or during the orientations? Open communication means that, in our company, my door is always open. You can always come in for a one-to-one consultation. It doesn't matter what is your rank file in the company. Number two, in our company, we do not say anything that we do not dare to repeat in front of the person that we are talking about. In our company, we are going to have, for example, a Zoom meeting, once a week, talking about everything else besides work. In our company, we have this website where you can write in anonymous suggestions or complaints. So this is how we translate our company values into action. Same thing goes to the other things. We need to consider that, values-driven company and a mission-driven company, I think would be the future, of what we are looking at. So with this, for the rest of the Malaysians that are still at home or working at home, do not despair because the times are bad. In fact, many people are restarting at a clean slate. Restaurants are closing, jobs are being lost. take this as an opportunity to restart your life in some form, you know. In good times, you should upskill yourself. In bad times, you should upskill yourself even faster. You know, when you are not working, keep on learning, you know, pick up new jobs that is not related to what you are doing right now or what you are qualified in doing. You know, this is the time to experiment, you know, and always have a accountability partner and have a community, you know. People like to use the word mastermind, but if you have a community of friends, you know, I met, I think every 2 weeks, you know, around the world where we come together, we discuss what are the updates in other countries, you know, how is everyone coping. I think really take care of your mental health, mental wellness situation. I think a lot of times we put a lot of importance on physical health, but we ignore our mental and emotional wellness.
Right.
So do not take this lightly. Check out if there is any hotline or maybe free consultation, you know, by the government or private agencies if you need someone to talk to. If you need to restructure your financial plans or goals, you know, you might want to do so as well. Right. So seeking help is a brave thing to do, you know. Don't sit in a corner, you know, and try to think this out yourself. You know? Yeah. So yes, back to you, Gwen.
Thank you so much, Hugo. Thank you so much for this session. I think everyone here has something to take back today. It's been very fruitful. Thank you so much for sharing, ladies and gentlemen. That was Mr. Hugo Tan, the director and principal trainer at Impact Academy Bukit Bintang. Now remember to follow Facebook, follow our Property Queen Facebook page. Go to our website if you're looking for property, and of course, follow us for our live sessions all the time on PQ TV Live. My name is Gwen. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Hugo. See you next time. Bye.
Thank you, Gwen. Thank you, Property Queen. May you have a great year ahead. Take care.
Thank you.